Go vote right now. Because when somebody tells you that you're garbage, that your heritage, that your culture, that you and your family and your descendants do not matter, you need to listen. You need to exercise your pride, your self-respect, and say, this is not who I want for a leader.
It's important to be part of a union because you have to have a voice.
Welcome to Union Talk. I'm Randi Weingarten.
So, hi, Union Talk listeners. This is the last Union Talk before the election. The women that I am about to speak to, Maria Kercado, the president of Labor Council for Latin American Advancement, LACLA, Yolanda King from the Detroit Federation of Teachers, Ashanti Wood from For Our Future, and Kate Sundeen from the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers. These are all amazing women who have organized, made phone calls, door knocked, and I really wanted them on this last podcast before the election, the most consequential election in my lifetime, because they're just like I have, but they are seeing what is going on, particularly in the places that are going to decide this election. And so I wanted to talk to people who are on the ground right now doing the work, the civic engagement work of making a democracy work. So since Labor Day, and by the way, this is Randi Weingarten if you don't recognize my voice, but since Labor Day, I've traveled across the country on what has been what we call the AFT Votes Bus. I'm losing count right now, but I think I've done about 150 events in about 20 states. By what's probably over this weekend is probably going to be another 10, 15 more. But why I am doing this and why our members are doing this and why Maria and Yolanda and Ashanti and Kate are doing this is because we see this election. Every election is important, but we see this election as particularly consequential on issues of our democracy, our rights, our freedoms, and then who is going to be the person in the White House who's actually going to help, not hurt working families. And so these are all the issues that we come into this period of time on. And given all the misinformation and disinformation that is out there and all the anger and the division in this country, frankly, I would put at the footsteps of Donald Trump and the 10 years of the divisiveness that he has not created, but exploited, is because this has become, as a result, a trust election, as opposed to what most elections are. They're about hopes versus fears, but there's so much gunk out there and so much disinformation out there that mostly where people are actually making, real progress or impact is people talking to each other, is people who are are people who are trusted. And that's why listening to people like Maria and Yolanda and Kate and Ashanti and what they're hearing on the doors or the phones, they're really hearing people's aspirations. They're really hearing people's fears, and they're really hearing what is going on for families across America. That's what we do in the labor movement, and that's what these amazing ladies have done. But, and then I'm going to get to them, they also have a lot of facts at their disposal in terms of the contrast between Trump and Harris. And let me just talk about two of them. Let's just talk about the issues of economics. Most families want to have a better life. That's why people join a labor union. That's why we have collective bargaining. And that's what we want our government to do for us. Not coddle billionaires, but actually make sure that people who work hard not just get by, but get ahead. And what Harris has done over the course of her very brief but really important campaign since Joe Biden left the race has been to not only talk about what the Biden-Harris administration had done to change the economy, to reindustrialize, to bring jobs back, to do the infrastructure work and the CHIPS work that had been happening, to take on the environmental issues, not just to seed that foundation, but she has really gone after the issue of affordability and costs to make the costs in our life less as we try to raise incomes. So things like cutting taxes for more than 100 million Americans, including starting with a child tax credit and saying that everybody who makes less than $400,000 should have a tax cut, and paying for it by making sure that the billionaires who have had tax cuts up and down the gazoo, including by Trump, they should pay their fair share. So a teacher or a electrician or a firefighter or child care worker, they should not be paying a higher tax rate than a billionaire. And so that's number one. But number two, really taking on the price gougers, like the grocery store price gougers, who use COVID to hike prices when they didn't have to, like the price of eggs or the price of bacon, lowering the cost of housing, of groceries, energy, and healthcare, and doing things using tax policy as well as other policies to really help. Like, for example, expanding Medicare so that it includes home care, so an elderly person can stay at home if the elderly person is frail, and that the sandwich generation, the people who have elderly parents and young kids, don't have to worry every single day, will my dad fall? Like my dad did, and my sister and I had to stop everything we were doing in life to make sure that we had people to take care of him, or we were taking care of him. That's what it means when we say have Medicare, have home care, but also build more homes, but also make sure not only that we're taking on student loan debt as we've done, but also for first-time home buyers, let there be a $25,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers so that they can get the deposit they need to buy a home. Let there be a $50,000 tax deduction to start a new business. These are the kind of things, innovative policies to actually really show working people and families that there's a pathway to a better health, incentivizing the tax code for working people, for the working class, as opposed to for the billionaires. That's what she's trying to do. And the other thing I would just say is this. We're hearing all of these stories about what's happened with the Trump abortion bans and what it means to people who are trying to start a family, but God forbid have a miscarriage or a pregnancy that goes badly. These stories from Georgia and Texas, that doctors are on the sidelines because they are fearful that they're going to be in prison for life because of these abortion bans. This fact that my grandkids right now have fewer freedoms than I do, that's not America. Nor is threatening your people who disagree with you, like he just did, threatening to kill, to execute Liz Cheney. This is not America. Having somebody at a rally call Puerto Rico by that kind of duplicitous, the demagogic or the denigrating name, dehumanizing Haitians. This is not America. We are better than that. But these are the stakes in the election. Somebody who wants to get us ahead, who sees the future, who is about all the people, versus somebody who's very dark and very much about himself and his billionaire friends. But having said all of that, I've got a few more days, and it's voters who are making the decision right now. So when I'm going to ask Maria, again, who's the president of LACLA for the Westchester chapter, Yolanda, who's a special ed teacher in the Detroit Public Schools for 21 years and a member of DFT. Ashanti, who is with the For Our Future work, and they have been working all throughout. I met you in Scranton, but you've been working all through Pennsylvania in terms of helping working folks. I loved what you said when we were in Wilkes-Barre, Ashanti. And Kate, who I know Kate for a long time, was a chemistry teacher at the Academy at Palumbo Magnet School in Philadelphia. I just really want to start and welcome you all and just start a conversation with all of you about what you're seeing. First off, why you're doing this work. So I'm going to start with Yolanda and then Maria, then Ashanti and Kate, and just why you're doing this work. Like, why are you knocking on doors? Why is elections important to you? Why are you doing this work? So let's start with Yolanda.
Good morning, ladies, and thank you so much for having me here today. I am so excited. So I do this, it's honestly personal. As a mother, obviously a Black mother, I have 2 little Black boys. If I was not door knocking and calling people about just getting out to vote, making sure you're registered, just on that basic level, I couldn't look my kids in the eyes every day and talk to them about having a future if I was not out in my own community doing the legwork, talking to people, talking to family, talking to people in other jobs of labor, talking to my own coworkers about being out here. We've door knocked every Saturday I've actually lost count. I know this Saturday is the last Saturday we'll be out there, but it is selfish because I have to look at them and I have to make sure they understand why this is important and what was lost in the past on being able to have this right to vote, just to be able to go to the poll and place your vote on who you want to lead this country. Every example you gave, Randy, I could personally think of a person who could benefit from every little thing you said, actually not even little thing, every big thing you said that our presidential candidate it will bring to the table. Buying a first-time home. I have family members that will be phenomenal for them. I have 5 great nieces that are all of childbearing age that I can think of that if there was a complication, what in the world would happen if we had abortion bans that were nationwide? So you keep those things in mind and you have to do your part every day to make sure the word is out there to vote. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. Maria.
Yes, I do this and have been doing this for many years before I retire. I was a labor activist with 1199 at CIU, and I enjoy having people realize the power that they have, right? That when you speak with people and they know that they can make a difference, believe it or not, there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, my vote doesn't matter. And it is good to have those one-on-one conversations where they realize that, yes, your voice matters, your vote matters. And why does it matter, right? Together as a collective, we can make a difference. That's how it's been done. And you, the individual, by speaking up, by standing up, can make a difference. You and you alone together with others. And so I enjoy doing that, and I think it's been effective. I like the canvassing. I like the door-to-door. I do a lot of phone banking, too. But meeting people face-to-face and having that conversation, I speak mostly to Latino workers because I have the ability to speak Spanish. And so I use that to be able to amplify those voices who might not understand what is going on because of the language barrier. And I think that is really, really important. And I like seeing the difference that it makes in their lives to know that their voice matters.
Fantastic. And Maria, I'm going to come back to you before the end to actually ask about the effect of the Trump Madison Square Garden rally on Puerto Ricans. But let me get back to, I want to get to Ashanti and then to Kate, because this is, look, what you're doing, what all 4 of you are doing, this is civic engagement. This is what we mean when we say people have to have a vote and a voice. And I'm so honored to be with all of you. Ashanti, how'd you get involved? Why does this matter to you?
How I got involved was actually, I met Christina Jones in Black Pack almost like 8 to 10 years ago in Florida. I was raised in Florida, but I was born in PA. So this is me, like, welcome back. I haven't been here since 96. I know this is personally important to me because my mother is really, really deep in politics. And I'm actually very glad and thankful for the fact that I actually have parents that are very deep in politics. I basically grew up watching Democracy Now! I was like, pretty much. And like all of you, I don't really have the years. I'm pretty new. And when I do actually go to the doors and like I didn't know my personality would actually like matter that much because I have changed a lot of people's mind. I know sometimes people are like, I guess like a little skittish when it comes to if people are Democratic or Republican. But to me is when you actually approach somebody that you're trying to get like a person that you don't know and they're a person they don't know, trying to get to talk to them. Just talk to them as like just a human and nice and cordial. And that actually has changed a lot of people's minds. I was like about actually talking to me, which I was like grateful for, including like a lot of Republicans too. And like I know it was, for example, some of them are just a little overwhelmed with the camera series right now, but actually, my attitude has actually made them calm down and still speak to me, which is great. And I'm actually very thankful to be a part of this, something so big. And the work that all of y'all put into it, like I can't even imagine, because I know like I'm doing canvassing is really hard work, going through the elements, putting in the footwork, the time, the hours. But I know all of you are you guys are the true like heroes and to look up to. Just because like all the work you guys put into like day in and day night. I was like 150 tours, like it was Randy said, that is phenomenal and amazing. But I think that's all I have to say just for now.
And Kate, I loved your story about when you started canvassing, but why don't you tell people why you're involved and why you're doing this work?
Sure. Thanks for having me. So I've been doing political stuff for a really long time. I too, like Ashanti, had family. I was like very involved politically. So when the PFT political director asked me to become a political liaison for my building, I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'm there. But I had never thought to do anything like canvassing because like the nervousness of it, right? Like what's that like, knocking on doors, talking to people I don't know, right? And so I didn't do that until Clinton lost the election. And I said to myself, the way I felt the day after that election, I never want to feel that way again. Ever. And I want to know that I have done everything I can to keep feeling that way again. So every critical election, and I have screwed my courage to the sticking place, and I've done the door knocking and just all the stuff that I used to do, like the phone calls and the postcards and like everything like that. But I decided like canvassing has to be part of it because just like all of these women have expressed, like that face-to-face conversation is what really changes people's lives, right? Like the postcard might remind somebody to go vote. Or the phone call might be like, oh, yeah, maybe I'll think about it. But it's that face-to-face conversation, being able to look somebody in the eye and say, this is what I believe, that I think is changing people's lives.
Let me ask all of you the $64,000 question, which is, what are you seeing out there? And then I'm going to ask you 3 questions. What are you seeing out there? So what are you seeing? What's the biggest issues? What was your best moment? And what advice would you give someone who's a reluctant voter? Like, what advice would you give in terms of going out to vote? So, Maria, I'm going to start with you because I know that, you know, the issues around what happened at the Garden and what that, not only that comedian, but all of this kind of dehumanizing that Trump and his minions do, but something really that the Puerto Rican community really heard the denigration to the island that was on stage at the Trump rally. So just talk a little bit about, has that affected the Puerto Rican vote? It seems to, from all my friends that are Puerto Rican, but has it affected the Puerto Rican vote? And why do you think so? And if so, why do you think so?
Oh, I think so. I see it. I don't think so. I know it, right? I'm hearing people who have not been in the past political be totally and completely galvanized around politics. It's like, it's all I'm hearing this past week is about what happened and how we are treated. And I think that it's awakened a lot of people who otherwise probably wouldn't even want to vote, right? People are talking about it because they're upset to be called garbage. But it's not just Puerto Ricans that are upset, right? It's many immigrants. I know a lot of people that are not Puerto Ricans that have called me and say, Maria, what is going on? What are we doing about this, right? And all I can say to people is the best thing we can do is not even wait until Tuesday. If you have early voting, go vote now. Go vote right now. Because when somebody tells you that you're garbage, that your heritage, that your culture, that you and your family and your descendants do not matter, you need to listen. You need to exercise your pride, your self-respect, and say, this is not who I want for a leader. This is not the person that's going to lead us into a good future. They're already telling you what they're going to do with you. You know, Boricuas, Puerto Ricanos, we call ourselves Boricuas. Boricuas are immigrants with benefits, and that's a threat to many people. We have the benefit of being able to vote, to register to vote, without going through a lot of paperwork for citizenship. And that's why I call us Boricuas with benefits. What I'm seeing on the ground and what I'm seeing in phone calls, and today I'm going to a rally actually in Newark at 1 o'clock when Nydia Velázquez is going to be there speaking. And it's many people that have called. We send out the flyer, we're organizing, and people are out there. Yes, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it everywhere I go. I'm seeing it from people I speak to, not only Puerto Ricanos, and not only Latinos. We have had a great deal of support from our African-American community who are indignant because we all know that this is not just a problem of the island. This is a problem of the people of the United States. Many people out there say, where is Puerto Rico? Puerto Rico is an American colony. It's part of the United States of America. We are American citizens, like it or not. We are American citizens. And if you do that to one American citizen, you're doing it to all. And every activist and every union member and every person of conscience out there should be indignant that Trump did this. And he cannot separate himself from it. He cannot. You know what? Even Randy, if he was to come and apologize to us right now, I ask everyone not accept that apology. Do not accept it. You know why? Because it's not sincere. It's self-serving. He knows he lost a great deal of the country with what he did to American citizens of Puerto Rican descent.
Yep. As you're talking, Maria, you think about those of us who have known Trump for a long time. Like Al Sharpton has been out there on a bus just educating people on what happened with the Central Park Five. And those of us know who lived in New York, we remember, yes, that was a horrible rape situation. And the people who were accused initially were then exonerated. And Trump still asked for the death penalty for these then kids, Black kids, who had been exonerated. it's the same kind of level of hate for those who look or are different than you, as opposed to bringing people together. And that's the dehumanizing that I think we heard and saw on the stage at Madison Square Garden. But it's been in a world where so much of this is not heard. I was grateful that people finally heard how mean-spirited, how dystopian, how hateful he is about people who look different and are from different cultures than he is. That is discrimination. That's bias. But you heard it, and that's why it wasn't within his being to apologize initially. They were at that rally for 7 hours. They knew what they said, So thank you, Maria. I wanted to just make sure we talked about that, because I've been hearing this from the Haitian community as well about how dare you call people, say that Haitians they're eating cats and dogs. How dare you? And then the violence and the issues that have happened and the fear that has happened, how the issue around, that's just saying there's going to be mass deportations and saying because they don't want to separate families, they will take people who are American citizens. The fear that engenders. All of this stuff is out there. But let me just ask everybody else. Anybody start? Maybe Ashanti, why don't you start? What are you hearing on the doors, just in terms of, is it you're hearing that, or you're hearing about economics? I mean, you talked to me at Wilkes-Barre about, what families really want and need. So I just wanted to make sure I got your voice in on this.
Yeah, it's pretty much when we actually met, that is what really is the number one thing I do hear from the doors is economics. The inflation, people are worried about how they're going to feed their family and children and themselves. How are they going to live if these prices continue to rise? They're extremely worried about rent prices and the people that are in charge of rent, how they have to have the freedom to just put these preposterous prices on buildings, and they're wondering where they're going to move or where they're going to stay, and they can't sell their houses because where they're going to go. Everything everywhere else is extremely higher than where they're living already. So they're extremely worried about that. The second problem I usually hear the most, other than the inflation is economy, is women's rights, because everyone is just extremely scared and worried the fact that if Trump is goes into White House, which that's that's terrible within itself. What are they going to do? What's going to happen? If they're going to actually have the rights to do what they want, I was with their bodies. And I know when I go to the doors, there are a lot of people who are undecided, and I do ask them, what means most to them? Asking that. And if that means so much to you and it's taken away, I was which candidate would you choose that you think that's going to be right for you? And I try to push them yes, towards course. I was toward Kamala, of course. But I tell them all the things you have dear to you, all that will be taken away if this election is lost. Yes, your vote does matter. Like you do say before, some people do think that their vote doesn't matter. And I do tell them that, yes, voting is pretty much the first step. And the process of change is very slow. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a couple weeks. It's a lifelong commitment, which is something I have said in my speech as well. And I told them, if things didn't matter, we wouldn't have the rights that we have now. We wouldn't have the freedom we have now. It's freedom of speech. The vote doesn't matter. Yes, like you said, we can go to the polls. And those are the things I see. I'm also seeing a lot of Republicans have switched sides for the first time. They're starting to actually realize that they think that they just want change. They don't want, Trump in as president, which is really good. But I do know during canvassing, some of the problems that you will face. There are a lot of people that are tired of getting canvassers, but like I said, with a great attitude and just talking to person face to face, which, like, yes, what Kate said, it can be scary. And that's especially scary for me because it's like it's like my second like go run doing this kind of canvas work. But I'm happy for it, and it started to open up a lot. And I'm glad that I did because it got me this far with the canvassers and the voters and doing all this great work. But that's pretty much all the things I'm seeing so far.
It's amazing to do this work. I love doing this work. It's hard. And sometimes you're going to get spit on or the door closed in your face. And given all the stuff that's going on in America right now, it's hard. But people need to feel cared about. And Ashanti, when you go to somebody's door who's an undecided voter or just no one, I know in Pennsylvania, a lot of people knock on doors, but it sends a message of connection and caring, which is part of what I think Kamala Harris wants to send as well. So thank you so much for doing that work. I want to ask Yolanda and Kate, because you're both teachers, and you've both been teachers in districts where in Michigan, it's Betsy DeVos. In Pennsylvania, it's Jeffrey Yass. So you're both teachers in places where these billionaires have tried to basically eradicate or defund a public school system. And you both have gone through those times when we didn't know whether we'd keep the public school system or not. And now we have Kamala Harris, who's running, who actually said at our convention, remember when she said, I'm seeing you shaking your head. So remember when she said something about her first grade teacher coming to her law school graduation.
Yeah.
And I remember and heard from so many of our members who were there, that sense of, yes, that's who teachers are. That's what we do. That's the love of our kids. And I remember that sense, that literally kind of cemented the connection between her and our membership off of that statement. But you're both involved and you both see the need of resources for schools. And I really, from the position of the lens of a school teacher doing this work in a district that the billionaires have really tried to eradicate, what are you seeing and what are you seeing on the ground? So I'll start with Yolanda and I'll go to Kate.
So in Detroit, educators are fired up. Detroit, Taylor, Dearborn, we're boots on the ground every Saturday, 10 a.m. rally, 1 p.m. rally, walking and door knocking as a community. We're also doing things in conjunction with MEA. So our brother-sister organization working together. Educators are excited. They're excited to have an educator as a vice president and to really feel like our voices can finally be heard in getting the things that we need, especially in a special education where the dollar doesn't stretch as far because the needs are greater. So in the city of Detroit, large population, large number of special needs students that need additional resources. And we just want a level playing field. We don't want any extra. We just want what we need for our students to be able to provide the best education for them without having to fight the state or fight the government for those things and be able to provide those things in our community for our students. So educators are excited, talking to other educators about moving forward, what they would like to see. They feel that we're definitely on the right track with our presidential candidate, Kamala Harris. And we're excited to do the work that gets her there. And that's the other part of it, is making sure that you're out here phone banking, canvassing, knocking on doors in your own community, as well as in other communities, to make sure that you get the word out. So I haven't been spit on or kicked yet, but I've been kind of ignored, or you see people and they're like, who is that? Oh, that's the canvassers. And it's like, no, we come in peace. Like, hey, I just want to make sure you're registered to vote and you've got a plan to vote on that day. Some people don't want to talk about who they're voting for, and that's fine. But we just want to make sure that you have the opportunity to vote, you're registered to vote, you know where you should be voting, and try to get people out to early vote if possible. I'm looking forward to kind of waiting on Tuesday to vote. I want to stand in line. I want to take it all in and vote on election day. So, but yeah, that's Detroit for now.
Fantastic, Yolanda. And guess what? We tell people, we encourage people to vote early. But okay, this is my secret, podcasters. I like to vote on election day. So Sharon and I are going to stand on line like Joe Biden stood in line. We're going to stand on line. We're going to vote on election day. We're going to vote early on election day. And then I'm going to go canvass the rest of the day. And, but we're going to vote on election day too. So Yolanda, thank you for saying that to me, because I feel like, oh my God.
No.
Anyway, tell people to vote early, but I'm going to vote on election day. And now what can I tell you? So
yes.
You and I have told everybody our secrets. So thank you.
We'll be in line. Yes.
Kate.
I'm an election day voter too. I like all of it. I like bringing my daughter to the polls. Like I like the whole. Well, so me too. I'm with you guys. So in Philadelphia, teachers are scared. We're scared on behalf of our students. Like we have so many students in our district, in our classrooms, that are potentially impacted or are being impacted right now by past Trump actions, current Trump rhetoric, future possible Trump actions. God forbid he's elected again. Like immigrant families, undocumented families, like kids who, I'm a high school teacher, right? So kids who, as elementary school students, lived in fear that their families were going to get ripped apart because of deportations, right? Are now in fear again because maybe the entire family is going to have to leave. And like they believe so deeply in the importance of being here in the United States, and they're so afraid of possibly losing that. And then Muslim students who experienced the backlash from the Muslim bans, who are living in fear, and students who are struggling economically because big business is still trying to take advantage of COVID to make excuses. Students who are experiencing all sorts of economic hardship and insecurity, like, are living in fear. And so we're there with them. Like, we are scared for them. And we live in a state where we have this billionaire who is trying to destroy public education when we just recently got back local control in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that public education is like the last bastion, the last defense for these kids who, and if that evaporates, if that goes, and we know that Trump and Vance and Project 2025 want it to go away, those kids no longer have protections. So we're scared in Philadelphia, and so we're fighting.
They've created an environment of fear, and that is so textbook authoritarian, that level of fear. But fear then could create great apathy, or people could get immobilized. What are you seeing? Are you seeing the apathy, or are you seeing the energy, or both?
I'm seeing both. And it is kind of very polarized. Like, it's either people are very convinced that they have no kind of control or power. And then the other end, people who are like, look, we're going to fight till the last breath. And it's like nothing really in between. And so like some of my conversations at the doors has just been like, look, the last election was in Pennsylvania, 80,000 votes. And if you spread that over all of the precincts in Pennsylvania, you're talking just a few votes per precinct. And that's not really how that works, I know, but still, like, that means that your vote matters. And like, these are like, you've heard, like, you know what Trump stands for. Like, that's not a secret. He's not hiding this stuff. What he stands for. And so that means, like, for your day-to-day life and the safety of your kids, like, believe that your vote matters and get out there and vote is what I'm trying to tell people.
All four of you have just said in this little round that we've just done the most amazing prophetic things about showing in just what you've said how important your work is at the doors or on the phones. So what I want to do instead is just essentially say last thoughts for people instead of going through another round, because I want to leave people with what you all just said. You have made it clear why the work of canvassing is so important and why the connection between you and people either on the phones or the doors is important, and why we do this work as citizens in a democracy to try and ensure that people have a voice in a democracy. And I think, Kate, as you just said, make sure that our hopes and our aspirations outweigh the fears, because we're going to fight for policies that ensure that. That's what I heard from what you said. Different words, but I heard from what you said. I'm glad you're shaking your head that I kind of got it right. So we're taping this 4 days out. The podcast will probably be on when it's 3 days out. So what's your final thoughts about the importance of this election and what you're going to do in the last 3 to 4 days? And this time, let's see, let me start with this time, Ashanti, and then I'll go to Maria, Kate, and Yolanda.
Okay. I know it's like the crucial last 4 days and everybody's heart racing and the drilling is there. I know the last 4 days is I'm going to try like my hardest to make sure that every voter is signed up, like that they're absolutely surely see the importance of this election and the gravity of this election. I know for me, I'm actually a little excited because yes, like some of y'all, I am going to be voting on election day because I had to re-register to get in this state. So I know I was complaining to like my mom. I was like, Mom, I need to get registered in this state. I don't care how like long it takes to just make sure it's in the mail and go on election day. I'm like, this is really important. I'm actually, like I said, I'm actually very proud and happy to be a part of this. And like, to me, just me personally, I think all our work just absolutely matters. I know that like all the work we put into, like we're going to see the effects on like what we did, on how much effort you guys put in, all the work, all the hours and the time and the sacrifice. So I know for a fact that these last 4 days coming up definitely is really crucial. And I know it's going to matter at the end because I just have a feeling that everything is going to go well. I do see the energy that the voters are bringing. I see the energy that the organizations and the workers are bringing, which is great. I know that when people say that doesn't matter, like it does matter because like if it didn't, I don't think we actually would have people do it, like bringing the sacrifice and the time and the work that they're bringing, like I have seen today and throughout this time working. So I think that's pretty much what I have to say on that. I'm just really excited and just a little choked up, but I'm prepared for the last 3 or 4 days. I'm glad, like, I just want to see like the results and we'll see where all our work and hard work is it's going to bring us.
Thank you, Ashanti. Maria.
I want to say to all the people listening to this podcast that if you cannot go out there and canvass, if you are unable to make phone calls, talk to your nuclear circle, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to the grocer, to your doctor, to whomever you come in contact with. Have a conversation about the importance of this election. Every election, I know you are probably tired of hearing, is the most important election of our lives. But if you look at the issues here, and if you look at the people running, you will know and you will realize that this is really the most important election of our lives. We have a real sane person running And we need to look at that, right? We need to look at that. Do it for yourselves. Do it for your family. Do it for your future. And please, in the next few days, if you have the opportunity to vote today, tomorrow, right before, or even on election day, please make that run and go and do this. This is going to be the best and most worthy spend time of your life.
Thank you, Maria. Yolanda.
So I'm with Ashanti. I'm very hopeful. I'm excited. This is an amazing time to be a part of something like this. I don't take it for granted. I don't take it lightly at all. It is very serious. So trying to stay positive, trying to stay energetic, still talking to people. You're not going to reach everybody, but would you say if you just reach one, you've done your job? I want to reach at least 5 in getting the message out and making sure that they understand the reason why Kamala and Tim are the candidates that we need to vote for in my own circle, outside of my circle. So yeah, just staying engaged, staying hopeful, taking a break and taking a step back from it all when you need to, because it can be overwhelming at times. It's on the radio, it's on your phone, it's a text, it's an email that you're getting constantly about whatever's going on and supporting. I was like, I didn't know who to phone bank with the other day because I got so many opportunities to phone bank and I wanted to do them all, and realizing I can't do it all. I can only do what I can do, and I'll do that and I'll keep it moving. But yeah, I'm very hopeful and very positive that all of this good work that we've done will work out in our favor, which is the right way it should go. So I'm excited and hopeful.
Thank you, Yolanda. Kate.
Well, as soon as I get off of this this recording, I'm actually going to be starting to call some of those over 2,000 people in Philadelphia County that need to get their ballots cured. And then we got a couple of final canvases that we're pushing over the weekend. And I want to encourage people, if you've never canvassed before, a really good day to do it is actually on election day, which might be surprising. Because a lot of the conversations that I've had canvassing on election day is just really kind of like helping people figure out where they're voting, or kind of final conversations about like why vote or voting rights, or like just like helping people get to where they need to be to do the important action of voting is really uplifting. And if you're feeling kind of anxious about how things are going, it's a great day to go out and canvass, because it really helps to lift up the spirits.
I want to kind of end where Kate ended as well, which is I'm going to spend my day after I vote on Tuesday, election day, canvassing in New York City, which is where I live. I'm going to do New York and maybe some of the environs around New York, and kind of be home and be connected to my own community. That's how I'm going to deal with my anxiety that day as well. But I completely agree with you, Kate. It's a really good day to do it, because a lot of people don't know where's their voting place. Are they, by that point, hopefully that they got to be registered in order to vote in most places. But people can go to I Will Vote, and they'll find out about all these details. If they don't have them right now, the canvassers and the phone bankers are going to make sure that people know that as well. And what Yolanda just said about bringing 5 people with you, that's the advice we've been given a lot of people, that because of all of this disinformation, bring 5 people with you. Talk to 5 people. Bring your work family, bring your relatives, bring your friends to the polls, because this is the most consequential election of our time. We can see, and Kate said it, Maria said it, and Ashanti said it, and Yolanda said it, we can see the difference between turning the page and living in this dark dystopian fear. We can see the difference between having a light and having an economy that can work for all versus an economy that works for some. We can see the difference of what happens, as I said before, when my grandkids now have fewer rights as they are growing up and deciding to have a family, what it means for them versus what it meant for my generation. We can see why voting matters, why if we don't have the funding and what we need for public schools, we need to create, as Kate said, the safe and welcoming environments for our kids, but we need that funding. And we need to create those ladders of opportunity. And we need to make sure an economy works for all, which is what Ashanti was saying and what Maria was saying in terms of all. Every American citizen has the right to vote and should be treated like a basic human being. That's what we're fighting for. And Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, Coach Walz, Kamala Harris, they've been fighting their whole adult lives for these kind of values. And they have the smarts and the experience to translate the values into policy that translates into practical well-being for everyone. So it's clear the contrast, but the fact that you four ladies are doing this every single day, taking our commitment, our covenant with having a democracy seriously by putting yourselves out, not only to vote yourself, but to also get out the vote so that we have the economy that works for all, the democracy that works for all, and freedom for all. I can't thank you enough, Yolanda, Maria, Ashanti, and Kate, for being with me today on this, our last union talk before the most consequential election of our lifetimes. Thank you, ladies. And for everybody who's listening, this is Union Talk.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Union Talk. Remember to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and tune in every other week for a new episode. Thank you, be safe, and be well.